Welcome to another edition of our Hog Hoops Report with our Hogville basketball insider, Kevin McPherson. Kevin, thank you for joining us this Sunday.
Good to be with you, Nick. Let's get to it, huh?
Yeah, I know you've been busy. I've been watching your Twitter feed, a lot of recruit news, and that's because we're in the third July evaluation period. Tell me, what have you seen from this evaluation period when it comes to Arkansas coaches? I know they've been traveling around seeing a lot of players.
They have, and the first and second live periods, there was a lot of activity traveling across the country. Less of that this weekend. Most of the attention was focused on Nike Peach Jam and Nike Peach Invitational in North Augusta, South Carolina, and Augusta, Georgia. Arkansas coaches were heavily focused there, but Arkansas also had a presence in Indianapolis for another Razorback target this weekend. So a lot of players, when I start to see Arkansas really drill down now on who are priorities to finish out a 2022 class, already 3 commitments on board in Joseph Pinion, Barry Dunning Jr., and Darian Ford. But then I look at the 5 stars that are still out there, a couple from in-state. Khalil Ware, the 7-footer out of North Rock, he played in Indianapolis. The head hog, Eric Musselman, assistant coach Keith Smart were on hand for all of his games over the weekend. The combination of the two, or both, one or the other, or both of them were there. And then when we talk about the Peach Jam, the Nike events, Nick Smith Jr., who, by the way, led his 17 and under Bradville elite team to the Peach Jam title. This is a prestigious event to wrap up the summer. That'll be played here shortly here on Sunday, but Arkansas coaches made it to every one of his games, usually 3 coaches deep, including Eric Musselman for his games. So those are your 2 5-star players who, by the way, will play at North Rock together next year for their senior seasons, Nick Smith Jr. and Khalil Ware. Nick Smith is a 6'5" combo guard, but he is so skilled. He might be the best true 1-2 combo in the country when it comes to being able to play on the ball as a facilitator and point guard, but also has that alpha score mentality with so much talent at all 3 levels. So that's going to be a dangerous 1-2 punch at North Little Rock next year. I expect that team to play a national schedule at times. But at any rate, Arkansas coaches continue to make those guys focal points, and being out in force this weekend to see those guys. And then you look at the out-of-state 5-star Jordan Walsh, 6'7" combo forward from Texas, will finish his senior season at Southern California Academy. Again, Arkansas coaches were on hand for his games, including Eric Musselman. You look at 2023 class, Bryson Warren, Arkansas coach. He's another 5-star, but will be a junior next year from the Little Rock area. Play his junior season out of state at Link Academy in Missouri, but Arkansas coaches also out to see him. And then we talked about this being the 3rd July live period. So that wraps up the competitive play on the shoe circuits. But starting today through the end of the week is one of the most prestigious individual player camps, sort of an all-star camp. It's the Mbpa Top 100 camp, sponsored by the NBA Players Association, usually held in Charlottesville, Virginia, on the campus of the University of Virginia. This year it's in Orlando, and it's not the top 100 players. They're really drilled it down to 60 of the top players. But the names I just mentioned, Khalil Ware, Nick Smith Jr., Jordan Walsh, all 3 of those young men are going to take part in this camp, as is Kajani Wright, the 5-star, also from California, the 6'9" forward center that took a visit to Arkansas in late June, will be taking part in this camp. And then Creed Williamson, a local kid. Khalil Ware, Nick Smith, we know they're local, but Creed Williamson, whose father, Big Nasty, Corliss Williamson, was a star at Arkansas, played in the NBA a long time. But Creed, 6'8" forward that plays at Little Rock Christian Academy, and for the 17 and under Arkansas Hawks, has also been invited and will take part in this MBPA Top 100 camp. Again, Orlando, Florida this year is the location, and it's 60 or so players. So really elite group and a lot of guys with Arkansas ties. Arkansas put an offer out to Creed Williamson a few months ago. I don't know that he's the priority that some of these other names we mentioned are, but he's a guy that if he has a good showing, things could change for him. And Arkansas, St. John's are the 2 high majors that have offered. Kansas has been showing consistent interest, so we'll see where Creed's recruitment goes from here.
That would be a great name to have in Arkansas, especially with those strong family ties. Obviously, you got to make sure those in-state guys are the priority. They always say the heart of your recruiting should always come from right inside your state. We know Eric Musselman and his crew, no shortage of great recruiters there. While you're on the road a lot, though, Kevin, you also got to focus on what's back home, right? And that's hog practice. And they've been in the gym this last week. What have you seen from Arkansas and the players who are on the team working out with the Hogs?
That's the beautiful thing about Razorback basketball practice. You don't have to be there in person to see things because the school puts stuff out on social media. And just a brief little cut up, a brief little clip they put out during the week of Chris Likes, the 5'7" senior transfer from Miami out of the ACC. There was a play where he's basically uses his quickness and burst on the baseline, couple of pin down screens, and just a few moments later, he's wide open for a three-pointer that he makes. But it just illustrates, because everything I've seen trying to track this player, kind of project what he's going to do at Arkansas, have been highlights with him playing on the ball, creating offense with his dribble drive and different moves, not only creating his own offense, but creating opportunities for others as a unique mismatch because of his size. But it was interesting to watch him play off the ball because he's so fast, and you use a couple of screens in there to help him get open. And that quickness says a lot. The other thing I thought was interesting is when he was down to the baseline, when you look at all the big defenders, a guy like him can get lost. So sometimes a smaller player has advantages because it's harder, just like in football when he's a small running back. Sometimes defenders can't find him, can't see him, and they use burst and quickness. All of a sudden, they're making a play that you didn't see coming. So Chris Likes, intriguing, unique player, and just a glimpse of a little brief cut-up highlight from practice from the U of A men's basketball program really spoke a lot. And so I really enjoy that when they do that. Now, some of the things the team worked on this week were making the extra pass, shot selection. So when you start thinking about all the NBA plays that Eric Musselman has, going through those, learning those, it's about timing, it's about position, footwork, guys being in concert. But no matter how great a play is, sometimes you're stuck with making a decision with the ball. Even if you've got an open look, maybe there's another player that's a higher percentage shooter that has a better look. So sometimes making the extra pass, not being afraid, being willing to make the hockey assist where you don't necessarily rack up a stat, finding a better shot. You can overdo it sometimes, but I think it's good to focus on those things in practice. Arkansas did that. The Razorbacks also worked on installing some Milwaukee Bucks offensive philosophies. Most of the NBA now plays 5 out, and even though Milwaukee has size in its front line, its bigs really were more phase perimeter type players, and you had playmakers in the backcourt as well. But Arkansas worked on some of the philosophy of the now NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. After 50 years between titles, the Bucks collected another one this week.
Oh, if you want to be able to emulate the best of the best, right? You win an NBA championship, the Bucks are doing something right. Why not take a couple of things of what they're doing, bring them into your own offense? And Eric Musselman, we always know, student of the game. He always is watching any type of film he can, and obviously modeling after the pro level is something he does the best. That's a great segue too, Kevin, into our next topic, and that's Bobby Portis winning that championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. You mentioned Corliss Williamson. He was the last player to win an NBA championship as Art in Arkansas in 2004. Now Bobby Portis resetting that, taking a title home with Milwaukee this past week or last week. Just your reaction to Bobby Portis winning a title.
Couldn't happen to a better former Razorback. I think he's the face of Razorback basketball at the pro level. I've thought that for a couple of years since Joe Johnson has stopped playing at that level. And then Portis gets a ring. He's one of the best reserves in the NBA. I thought it was really malpractice that he wasn't one of the finals for the NBA Sixth Man of the Year when you consider one of the only non-starter to average at least 10 points and 7 rebounds per game through the regular season, finished third in three-point shooting percentage, shot over 50% overall from the field, which was among the best in the league. And then his impact on this team throughout the playoffs really kind of backed up how valuable he is. Took over as a starter when Giannis, the Greek Freak, was hurt in the Eastern Conference Finals those last 2 games. Series was tied 2-2, and Bobby goes out and averages 17 points, 8.5 rebounds, and helps that team finish out that series in 6 games and get to the finals. And then first couple of games were a struggle for Bobby, a struggle for the Bucks, dropped to 0-2, playing out in Phoenix, and then swept the last 4 games. Bobby's role increased. Big part of what they were doing. And then the closeout game 6 at home, 16 points, 3 rebounds, a block in 16 minutes. Big time effort by him. And now he has actually set a standard, not only as a former Hog, one of the few in elite company to win an NBA championship as a player, but only he and Corliss Williamson really had meaningful roles in the rotation on title teams when we talk about former Hogs and what they did. But Portis has now set some standards. He's the only Hog to ever score in double figures in a finals series. He did that a couple of times, has the highest scoring average, which makes sense for a former Hog in a final series. But I think Portis has done himself a favor now because he has a player option, Nick, for year 2 on his Milwaukee contract. And there's going to be a lot of suitors that are going to try to, get him to listen. He loves Milwaukee. The fans love him. They've adopted him. He's got folk hero status now in just one season there.
He does.
But he's got leverage now. And going into his 7th NBA season, he's proven to be a guy that I think in some scenarios could be a valid starter, a key starter for teams. But at minimum, one of the main pieces to an organization coming off the bench. So kudos to Bobby Portis for his efforts.
It would be hard pressed for Milwaukee to see him walk. I mean, I know during the parade, he was wearing a WWE belt and he was calling himself the people's champ because that's just exactly what you said. That city has embraced him as a fan favorite on that team. And that's, it's been something cool to watch. And it was awesome to see Bobby win that championship. And I know that, the fan base is loving it over there. We'll see what happens with that contract you're talking about. Now, one person chasing an NBA contract, an NBA draft, is going to be Moses Moody. Now, he's going to get one, right? He's projected lottery pick. He's had a lot of workouts with pro teams. It seems like every other day you're seeing Moses Moody with a different pro team working out. What have you heard or what have you seen from Moses as we head into the draft, July 29th?
Well, I think everything is trending up for Moses Moody. Everything you said is right. He's projected mid to late lottery, maybe somewhere in the late teens if he slips outside of the lottery at worst case scenario. Has had a lot of workouts with teams. When you look at their picks, they are in that range that we're talking about. So he's been invited in for individual workouts. Eric Musselman, this past week, I'm told, spent up to 2 hours a day talking to NBA teams about who are interested in drafting Moses Moody. So I think, when you're talking about the first one and done in program history, SEC freshman of the year, SEC newcomer of the year, first team all SEC, and now things are about to pay off. And we've talked about all this recruiting of 5 stars. We talk about Bobby Portis being on a big stage nationally and what Moses Moody was able to do at Arkansas in just year 2 under Musselman. Right now, Arkansas is a hot name. In basketball circles, I think, because of the finish of the team, the Elite Eight last year, being a national top 10 finisher, and then seeing what some of the successes on the NBA level, even guys like Daniel Gafford, who once he got traded to Washington, finished the season strong, got to the playoffs, was a starter, worked his way in the starting lineup. So I think Arkansas right now is a hot name again in basketball when you look at the various levels. And Moses Moody is going to be a guy that's going to have a chance, I think, looking at him projecting long-term as a key player at the NBA level, as a starter, I think, with all-star potential eventually.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. He's going to be round 1 on that Thursday, July 29th. And you mentioned that hotbed. It's been really cool to see Little Rock be that hotbed. You mentioned those 2 5-stars out of North Little Rock, Bobby Portis, now Moses Moody. Little Rock living up to its name as a big basketball town on every stage from high school to college and now an NBA championship. Kevin McPherson, thank you so much for joining us in this week's Hogs Hoop Recruiting Report.
Thanks, Nick. Good to be with you guys.